Okay, good morning again, everyone. This is Nick Petro at the National Weather Service in Raleigh with your weekly impact weather briefing for Central North Carolina, although it's an expanded version here with snow possible east of Highway 1 tomorrow afternoon through tomorrow night. As you can see on this introduction slide, there is a winter storm watch out for a good portion of eastern North Carolina, basically from the Highway 95, the Interstate 95 corridor eastward. And that's the current status of the watch and warning situation. And, their confidence is pretty high that places, east of 95 are going to see, some wintry weather. Now, the question, with this, the challenge is how far west does that snow reach? And hopefully we'll touch on that here, or we will touch on that here in a few seconds. But significant snowfall is possible in far eastern sections along and east of a line from Scotland Neck to Rocky Mount to Goldsboro. Basically along and east of 95. Let's just put it that way, along and east of I-95. So anyway, jumping ahead into the slides here. This is a pretty standard slide we always have on here. So snow and hazardous travel. Those are the main two things that we're expecting, obviously, where and east of Highway 1. The reason we mention Highway 1 is because we think once you get west of Highway 1, there won't be anything, any kind of snow whatsoever. We're thinking east of 1 is where there will be any snow, with the highest amounts east of I-95. Not to say that there won't be any snow between US 1 and I-95, but we're saying the bulk of it should be east of I-95. All right, and I think in the next few slides will convey that a little better here as we get to that. And again, we think, and this slide just summarizes what I just pointed out. Along and east of I-95 is where we think the elevated hazards and impacts will be located. So everybody, this is the main thing: how much snow. And this right now is our best assessment of what we think is going to happen, with the 1 to 2 inch amounts basically right over the I-95 corridor. And you have to get east of I-95 before you get into the 2 to 3 inch amounts. The big question though is how far does the western edge of the precipitation shield extend? How far west does that shield extend? We're saying that basically from US Highway 1 corridor eastward, there could be some snowflakes, and some, but how much is a lot of uncertainty. The confidence is much higher that places east of I-95 will see that accumulating snow. Here's another way to convey that with timing. Hopefully these slides are meant to show when. When's it going to start? When's the heaviest precip going to come down? That's the middle. And when's it going to begin to end? And that's on the right. So we expect, and this is, by the way, the most likely scenario. We expect the snow to begin, or the precip to begin, sometime in the late afternoon tomorrow, between 2 and 5 p.m. And in this particular most likely scenario, the precip shield really doesn't extend any further west than I-95. We expect the heaviest precip rates to occur sometime during the mid to late evening hours. So between 9 p.m. and midnight tomorrow evening, that's when we expect it to be coming down the hardest. And then after midnight is when we expect the precip shield to begin shifting eastward and moving out. So right now, and you could see in that scenario, it's kind of like skirting the eastern portions of central North Carolina. So, leaving locations west of I-95 pretty much, a non-event or dry even. So that's the most likely scenario. The next slide conveys the worst case scenario because, and I'll point out that even though this is the worst case scenario, the likelihood of this happening is really slim. But because there are, 1, maybe 2 models that show this potential, I wanted to include this. Just because, in case the worst case scenario does occur, you at least have a sense of the timing of it. Essentially, the timing's still the same. Between 2 and 5 p.m. Wednesday is when it begins to move up from the south. The heaviest precip rates between 9 p.m. and midnight tomorrow night, or tomorrow evening, I should say, and then exiting after midnight, kind of like the previous slide. So the timing doesn't change with the worst case scenario. What changes with the worst case scenario is how far to the west the precip shield extends. That's the difference. That's the difference between the most likely scenario and the worst case scenario. The difference is how far west the precipitation shield extends. The worst case scenario takes the precipitation shield further west than I-95, perhaps even further west than US 1. But again, let me reiterate and emphasize that this is unlikely, or the least likely to occur. Okay, the least likely to occur, but it's on the table. It's, still a solution that's on the table, although unlikely to occur. All right. So what about the range of possible snow accumulations? This is part of what we rolled out last year, what we call probabilistic snow, and this is another way to convey what I just showed you in the last two slides. We have the low end amount, the expected amount, and then the high end amount. So the expected amount, the one in the middle, gives the solution that is most likely to occur given the range of model solutions that we have to work with right now. But on the left, we have the low end amount. And while that seems kind of almost odd that you're going to see zeros everywhere, what that's really telling us is that one or more of our forecast models are showing nothing will happen where there's zeros. In other words, a non-event is still a possibility. A non-event is still on the table for those locations that see zeros, that have zeros. And that's basically all of central North Carolina. So there are model solutions that show nothing happening anywhere in central North Carolina. So that's why we include those zeros there as the low end amount. On the flip side, the high end amount, while the amounts in that part of the graphic seem way too high, what that's telling us is there's at least one or more models that show that higher end amounts, like what we're showing here, are possible. And again, that's unlikely to occur, but we can't take it off the table because there's still a few models that show that. But given the range of models, the most likely scenario, what we think is going to happen is right there in the middle, the expected snowfall. Okay, so here's a summary of the event. And hang on for just a second here while I mute my cell phone. Snow is possible over eastern North Carolina, mainly east of Highway 1, Wednesday afternoon through Wednesday night. Amounts are likely to be highest along and east of I-95. A band of heavy snow may occur, but details, the exact location, are still uncertain, so you'll want to check back, of course. Confidence is is moderate, if not even high, that will occur tomorrow, but particularly east of I-95. It's mostly a snow event. It's so cold. I mean, the ground temperatures are at or even below freezing, and that's pretty rare. Ground temperatures, we're talking several inches below the surface, is below freezing. So, I mean, it's any snow that falls, it's going to stick almost immediately. So keep that in mind too. When's the greatest impacts? That's going to be Wednesday, probably late afternoon through Thursday morning. The Wednesday late day rush hour commute could be impacted, particularly south of Raleigh, with that precip shield lifting northward. And then the Thursday morning commute is also likely to be impacted where the heaviest precip amounts occur. And again, that's going to be east of I-95. All right, so that's the way things are shaping up to summarize this event. All right, let's look real quickly at the rest of the week since this is our weekly briefing slide set. Essentially, the key points for the rest of this week are there's really no more precip makers. There's no weather events once we get past late day tomorrow. And let me pause for a moment here. Sorry about that. I had a cough, so I had to mute that. But anyway, once we get past late day tomorrow night, no additional weather makers are expected the rest of the week. As we go to the looking further ahead into next week, the 8 to 14 day outlook suggests maybe a break from these crazy cold temperatures we've been having. So that's good news. So anyway, once we get past Wednesday and Wednesday night, no additional weather systems are expected to affect central North Carolina through Sunday. But let me point out that where snow does accumulate, we'll need to watch out for black ice Thursday and Friday morning due to melt and refreeze cycles. So while there are no weather systems the rest of the week, there could be some black ice issues the mornings, each morning, subsequent morning. Again, that will be where the snow falls and accumulates, mainly east of I-95. Temperatures will remain below freezing through the early weekend period. You'll see there at the bottom, we stay at or below freezing right through Saturday. So more in the way of cold is expected. We will finally see a gradual moderating trend late in the weekend or early next week. And I know everyone's looking forward to that. So anyway, All right, that's the weekly briefing. What about a briefing schedule the rest of this week? Today we're going to do something interesting at 3:30. We're going to do a Facebook Live event that's kind of like a live broadcast, live video, and that's going to feature an in-depth discussion from our science officer. He's going to talk about all the sciencey factors that go into tomorrow's snow forecast. We'll have the opportunity for some questions to address some questions after that. So if you want to watch that, just simply go to our Facebook page there at facebook.com/NWS Raleigh. By 4:30 this afternoon, we're going to update these slides here that I just showed, and we'll email those to everyone. And then tomorrow morning, we're going to do another one of these webinars. We're going to do another webinar tomorrow at 11:30, same time. The only difference is going to be the link. You have to register separately for this one. You can register for tomorrow's 11:30 webinar by going to the link below. And again, these slides will be emailed out to everyone. And then if something changes, we'll update these slides and send them out as needed. So as conditions warrant, or if forecast situation changes, we'll update these slides and send them out. But the next webinar like we're doing right now, will be tomorrow. But you have to register using the link on this slide. All right, so that wraps up this week's weekly briefing. Let me just go back and leave it on this slide here while I take questions. So bear with me here for just 1 second. I'm just going to randomly pull these out here. All right, Roger, thanks for that comment there, and Brian, appreciate that. Let's see, what else do we got here? Yeah, again, all the folks saying thanks. Appreciate those questions or those comments. Okay, here's there's a question here. Can we do the webinar earlier than 11:30 to help schools assist in making decisions? I tell you what we'll do. Let me think about that. We're trying to find the best time to conduct that. Let me do mention that certainly we'll update the slides and email the slides as we head through this event. But you're welcome to call us using our operational number. Everybody on this webinar should have our backline. That is for our partners, our emergency managers, media, school officials. You should all have our backline and you're welcome to call us and talk to any of our forecasters. Leslie asked the question, how does our current weather pattern compare to the year we received 22 inches of snow? This is not even close to that type of pattern. So great question, though. I'm not expecting anything like that to happen. In fact, the latest model runs have been coming in as we're on this webinar, and there is a hint that maybe it's a little more eastern emphasis. In other words, that worst case scenario slide that I showed you, even less likely to occur. Okay. Yeah, there's a request to send out the links and the times. Got that? Yeah, I'm gonna this link to the webinar will be emailed out to everybody here in just a few minutes. So, Ian, that's a great question. I probably failed to mention that the slides I just showed on this webinar, as soon as we disconnect here, I'm going to email them to everybody. So no worries about getting that link here in just a few minutes. All right, bear with me here for just a second. John, that's a great question. Can you email me that question? Because I'm a little confused, John, about the nomogram. Can you email me that question just so I can follow up with you about that? Because I'm not quite sure what you're trying to get on there. So bear with me here for 1 second. I'm just scrolling through the questions here. Bear with me here. So. I'm still here. We're just trying to scroll through these questions here. All right, I don't see any other questions in the question list. Chris asked, can I send us a spaghetti plot showing all the models? And there's no like clean, concise page like we do with like tropical storms and hurricanes for spaghetti models. There's a couple out there. There's a couple university web pages that are good for that.